Welcome back to Tutorial Tidbits. I'm Elizabeth St. Hilaire, and this is the second tidbit this week. It is a second in the series of how to use my new stencil designs on the gel plate. So I've got 9 new stencil designs, say that 5 times fast, with joggles.com, and they are all in a peacock theme. So on Wednesday, I showed you how to use pearlescent, iridescent, and interference over dark colors with these peacock designs. And today I'm going to show you how to make a one-pull print that has a couple of different colors, and painting and sponging, and it's a lot of fun. Layers are the key, but this is a one-pull peacock print with my new stencil design. And if you are interested in receiving these tutorial tidbits in your inbox every week, along with a listing of products as a blog post, please subscribe to my newsletter mailing list, and you'll get this information every week delivered right to you, so you'll never miss one in a nice, easy to read format. And then I also have to remind you that if you're interested in following me, subscribing to me on Patreon, you'll get 4 in-depth tutorial videos every single month for a small subscription of $25 to support your favorite artist, and to have videos that are in-depth and multi-part oftentimes, and everything that has ever been published is available to you immediately as soon as you sign up. So everything in the archive and everything moving forward, it's a fantastic deal. Check out the link in the upper right-hand corner for information about Patreon. And now, let's go pull that print. Welcome back for another sneak peek into my brand new stencil collection that launched this week at joggles.com. You can find that link below. And these are all peacock inspired stencils. So today I am going to be featuring the stencil called Plumage. And this one is a mask, because it is the plastic positive that creates the pattern. Most of my pieces are masks because I like the way the ghost print works. And the ghost print is the paint that gets trapped underneath the plastic so that when you lift it up, you get a positive image that looks just like the mask. So today, I'm going to use green gold, which is a highly translucent color. You can see that there are black tick marks on the front of the container that you can see all the way through the green gold. So you know that it's highly translucent. On the other hand, Titan green pale, you don't see those tick marks at all. So this is quite opaque. So I'm going to add a little bit of the Titan green pale to make the green gold just a little bit less translucent. So a little Titan green pale and a little green gold. And then I'm going to take the brayer and I'm going to swirl it around like I'm stirring. In order to get it really blended together, I'm going to swirl it and stir it and then roll it out. This is important so that you don't get blotchy Titan green pale and green gold, because sometimes you just roll it out on the surface, but underneath it's still blotchy. So if you want it to blend really well, you have to swirl it and then roll it. So this is a nice bright green color that's going to be the pattern of this mask. So we're going to lay the mask into that green color, and then I'm just going to take a scrap sheet and I'm going to remove all the paint that is in between the spaces of the mask. So this is just my scrap sheet, and I'm just using this to take off all the paint on the plate that is not under the mask. And I'm going to do a second print so I can get even more of that out. I want it to be as clean as possible in the spaces because I'm going to be adding other color in the spaces. So I've got that pretty clean, as clean as it's going to get. So now my next step is to take a piece of palette paper, a little recycled palette paper here, and I'm going to use my mini ink blender tool. Now this is a sponge that's attached with Velcro to this little stamping tool, and the Velcros can be replaced, but they can also be washed out for quite a while, and then they can be replaced, and then you can just sponge paint through the mask onto the plate. So the mini ink blender tool, that link is also below, and you can get that also with joggles. And I'm going to be using Phthalo Blue Green shade fluid acrylic by Golden. So I'm going to squeeze some of that out, a very generous portion of that out onto my palette paper. And then I'm going to dab my blender tool and get that color all over the sponge tip. And then I'm going to just dab that heavy paint coverage into the eyes of the peacock feathers. So this is perfect because it's a round tool and I'm going into a round space. You want to make sure you have good coverage. Once you start running out of paint, it gets too thin. So you want to have a good thick paint application. And I like this Phthalo Blue Green shade because it's a deep, rich, medium blue. So we're going to make sure that we've painted in all of the peacock feather eyes with this nice dark blue. And then I'm just going to pop this into some water that I've got at the side so that I can wash it later. Then the next step is to add in the yellow in this print. And so I'm just going to use a paintbrush for this because I get better control that way. And I'm going to be using Naples Yellow, which is, again, another paint that is sort of pretty opaque. And I'm going to use that to mix with my Indian Yellow because my Indian Yellow is really translucent. So I'm going to mix these two together in order to get sort of a nice yellowy gold that will be opaque. So a little a little Indian Yellow, a little Naples, and a paintbrush. And I'm going to just swirl those together. And I'm going to bring in with the brush and I'm going to paint right in this stencil into the golden part of the peacock feather eyes. And I'm going to lay it on pretty thick so I get good coverage. And it doesn't matter if my brush dips into the blue and it gets a little messy because we're not going for a perfect print here. We're going for a print that looks kind of painted and painterly. So it's all right if the colors kind of blend and smear together. That will enhance the effect, actually. So I'm just painting in around where I see the feather eyes to be. And I'm going directly over the stencil. You'll notice I have not removed the stencil. I'm painting on top. So I have not removed the stencil. All I did was remove the paint from in between the spaces in the stencil, but I have not lifted the stencil off the gel plate. And now I'm painting right on top. I've also got a bin of warm soapy water off to the side, so when I do pull this stencil, I'll throw it into that bin of water so that we can get some of this heavy paint coverage off of the surface of the stencil before it dries. Once it's dry, acrylic paint is not going anywhere. So when you want to wash your tools, you need to get them into that warm soapy water basin before the paint dries. So you can have that off to the side. So now I'm going to run my brush sort of light and sideways where I see this sort of looking a little thin. Make sure I get good paint coverage. And then we're good. This one doesn't have much. We could make it up right there. Okay, so that brush is going into the water, and now that I've painted through the stencil, now I'm going to lift it off. And what you're going to see is that green that we did in the first layer is trapped under this stencil. So now we've got all those wonderful green lines plus the colors that we painted through. And I'm going to throw this in the warm soapy basin off to the side. And that's and then we're going to give this a minute to dry. We want this to dry and sort of set up, because what we're going to do is we're going to put another layer of paint over this, and that's the beauty of the gel plate. This is the 8x10 gel plate, and what that's going to do is the last layer of paint is going to cause the plate to release everything off of it, even stuff that is dry. That's the idea anyway. That's the plan. The thing about art is that it's not... nothing's guaranteed. So, that's the plan. So we're going to let this dry. And then we have to think about what color can we put over the top of everything that will allow everything to show up. So a dark green would be nice because we'd have a dark green down below the spaces, and the green gold, because we mixed it with something opaque, is going to be opaque enough to stand up off of a dark green. Green gold by itself, being so translucent, if we put dark green over this, it would get absorbed. But since we added the opaque Titan green pail, we've now made it a stronger, more opaque color. So, and the same thing for the yellow parts. We've got the Naples yellow, which is opaque, mixed with the Indian yellow. So now we've got an opaque yellow. That means that the last layer is not going to show through, or will show through those less. So we don't have to worry about them getting absorbed. And the dark blue is pretty dark. So I'm going to go for a medium value, something that's lighter than the dark blue, but darker than the light colors. So the trick is deciding what color to use for that. Thinking about using manganese blue. So let me grab that. Manganese blue is a nice medium value. It's darker than the green, it's darker than the yellow, but it's lighter than the dark blue. So it's going to let everything show up. It's highly translucent, as you can see the tick marks through it, but that's not going to matter because it is not going to absorb the dark blue, and the other colors are opaque. So let's see how this is doing. It's going to be a slightly wet, and when we roll it, it's going to smear slightly. That's sort of what's going to also contribute to the painterly effect. This is not going to be perfect. It's going to get smeared a little bit, and every time you do it, you're going to get different results. So it's not something that you can do over and over and over again and have the same print. Every time you do it, you'll get different results. So that's what's kind of fun and cool about it. So here's our brayer. I need to roll that off onto a clean piece of paper off to the side to make sure that I don't have any more of the yellow-green in it. And then I am going to put the manganese blue over the whole plate. Also, I am using my rice paper pad, and that is the best paper. This is the sketch rice paper that's on my Amazon shopping list. It is the best paper for the gel plate because it has a smooth side, which is sized. So the side that is up in the pad is smooth, and that is the side that you want to go down on the plate. And it should pull every bit of paint off of the plate because it's nice and smooth. It's also a very durable, thick rice paper, so it won't tear when we're pulling this print. So this is the only rice paper that I recommend for the gel plate when you're doing stuff that requires multiple layers and requires a sturdy paper. And this is on my Amazon shopping list, and that list includes all of my favorite supplies, not only for my classes, but also for my studio must-haves like easels and lights and paint carts. There's a watercolor list there. There's a gel printing list there. I've taken a lot of time to organize this Amazon page by category, by subject. So that link is in the upper right-hand corner of your video. Check that out for ease of shopping. So by now this should be dry. So let's grab a piece of that paper out of that pad with the smooth side is going down. Now we're going to take the manganese blue and put it over the whole thing. And then we're going to roll with a light hand. We don't want to really dig it in there. We want to try and roll it with a light hand up over the top. It is smearing that yellow. And then we're going to take the rice paper, smooth side down, and get good pressure onto the whole print. And this should pull up all the lower layers and give us a painterly peacock pattern. So we'll see some of it left behind, and you can rub that to see if you can get it to pick up a little bit more. That could be another interesting layer. But here we go. Here is a beautiful peacock painterly pattern in a one-pull print with the plumage stencil and golden fluid acrylics. And now that little bit that's left, I can put another layer of manganese blue and pull that again, and I should be able to get it all off. But this is the most beautiful print, and you can experiment with the colors that you use and the color that you put over the final piece. So here's an example of one that I pulled just previously. And this one, I used the Titan green pail over the whole print to pull. Here's one that I did where I used a darker color to pull, but I sort of lost my yellows. And here's one that I used to pull turquoise to pull, but this got sort of worn out. So with practice, I started with this one, and then I went to that one, and then I made edits and went to this one, and now we've got that one. So it takes practice, it takes experimenting with different colors, and it takes the right paper. And I hope you'll have fun playing with my new Peacock stencil designs, this one being called Plumage. It's one of 9 brand new stencils available on joggles.com, and you can get that information in the upper right hand corner of your video, or you can go right to joggles.com. Now, last but not least, if you're interested in in-depth, full-length tutorials with me, they publish every week in my Patreon page, which is available for a low monthly subscription of $25, and you'll get 4 videos, a minimum of 4 videos a month, and that information and more details is in your upper right-hand corner. Thanks so much for being here. Happy Friday, and we'll see you next week.